Thank you very much, Terry. That's Terry Sullivan, our piano player today, and thank you, Terry, for the wonderful music that, by the way, that version of Love Story was Terry's own arrangement, and she's playing that in recognition that Valentine's Day is not too far away. So thank you again, Terry. I'd also like to thank our tech folks, Dustin Agan and Doug Walker, who are back in the booth helping us today. I'm Henry Millett, and I'll be your service leader this morning. I'd like to welcome everybody who's here. I'm glad to see everyone. And Dustin, could we say welcome to the Zoom folks, please? We'll show them on the big... Oh, there we go. Hi there. Okay. All right. Thank you. Our guest speaker today is UU Minister Reverend Janet Onnie, with her message entitled, When Love Is Not Enough. Reverend Onnie has presented Sunday messages to us many times. We always look forward to what she has to say. Reverend Onnie, I have a message for you. I didn't get to speak it to you before we started. It is this. Since you're live on Zoom today, and she is live, by the way, I'm going to nod when it's time for you to speak, and I see you're nodding in return. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. I have a few announcements today. Let me start with these. On Saturday, this is from the Social Justice Committee. On Saturday, February 18th, the Eustis African American Heritage Parade will take place. The application for UUCLC to walk with our banner in the parade has been submitted. Anyone interested in walking in the parade, please sign up in the narthex or contact Karen Frank if you want to be in the parade. That's the Eustis African American Heritage Parade, February 18th. Christina Wilkins has given her blessing to having a garden team, okay? As you know, Christina Wilkins is our building and grounds person, and she said, yes, we can garden. We're going to resurrect the wildflower garden. The vision is this is a project for many members of the congregation who would be involved. If you are interested in planning, designing the area, installation of the garden, and or ongoing maintenance, I hear more interest all the time there. I hope people are interested to establish the garden. Please sign up at the narthex or again, contact Karen Frank. That's from the Social Justice and Environment Committee. We had a good discussion this morning in the Sunday morning discussion group about the importance of what kind of plants are out there for pollination and so forth. So our garden is very important in that regard. On February 19th, Cynthia Snavely will give her first sermon as our interim part-time minister. We're sharing her with Tri-UU for a year and a half in Summerfield. A reception to welcome Reverend Snavely will be held after the service with a light lunch and a toast to Reverend Snavely. To help with the reception, please contact Bernie Greenberg. On March 4th, and you probably know this, but I'm going to mention it again because we always need help, the UUCLC Social Justice and Environment Committee is sponsoring an Echo Expo with several other organizations. It's going to be held at Lake Sumter State College, 8:30 to 1. That's March 4th. Help is needed to staff our conservation display. Please contact Karen Frank or Karen Woolhouse to volunteer. And by the way, if you don't volunteer, everyone is invited to attend the symposium. There will be a lot of information about environmental efforts, okay? Very interesting. Jane Lovejoy reminds us to put the Open Door Homeless Shelter on your grocery list so you don't forget to get something to donate. She suggests snacks, toiletry items, men's underwear, deodorant, and insect spray as key items to donate. And she thanks you for your donations. The box to put those items in is under the table in the narthex. I brought a flyer in this morning from the Leesburg Food Bank, which is having a special fill-a-bag drive similar to our Fill-a-Basket Thanksgiving drive. If anyone wants to participate in that, the list of items that they could use is out there on the table in the narthex. That's the Leesburg Food Bank. We have some people that live in the Leesburg area, so if you're there, you might be interested in participating in that particular drive. Here's one that's ways in the future, but it's never too early. The UUA General Assembly, GA, will be held in Pittsburgh this year from June 21st to the 25th. You can register and you can also arrange for housing already. If you go to UUA GA on your website, that will take you to the good site, good place to do all those things if you want. And the GA again is in June. And finally, the membership committee is sponsoring an open house to UUCLC on March 25th from 1 to 4 to bring new people to our church. And if you would like to help, please see Janine Reagan or Wendy Pasek. Are there any other announcements after all that? Chris Cleveland, please. And we have a microphone. Pete is the microphone. There he is. Please hold the microphone very close and speak clearly.
All right. We have some Solar United Neighbors shirts from when we had our solar celebration. They are yellow shirts, and we're trying to get people to have yellow shirts for our open house on March 25th. So they are out there on the right side of the exit door, and there's a donation box. So we have a few small, medium, and moderate number of larges and about 9 extra larges. So if you want to take one, and if you want to donate to the church, there's a box right on the table. And one other thing is we have a new flag up here. I just want to tell you a little bit about it. It's the new Pride flag. It's called Progress Pride, and it includes the trans colors, the light blue and pink and white. And can you pull it out this to one side? And then it includes the black and brown to represent people of color and the connection between the two intersections. So that's our new flag, and that's it.
Thank you very much. That's a beautiful new flag with new parts to it. So most of us have never seen that before. Thank you very much, Chris and Russ. Thank you very much. Any other announcements from anyone? Okay, Wendy.
Hi. Sorry I didn't think about putting it up for you to announce, but next week is February 12th, and it's Bring a Friend Day. And probably Janine would have announced it if she was here. So bring a friend that maybe doesn't know anything about us, or your neighbor or somebody, bring somebody along, and all we're going to have them do is just sign their name on a sheet and we have a special button for them to put on. But this way, other people get to know us, and we'll have our coffee and our treats afterwards for them. Okay, so just don't forget, bring your friend.
And what's the date again on that? The 12th, next week.
February 12th,
Next week. All right, thank you very much. Any other announcements? All right, thank you. I have a special thing to do this morning. It's not really, it's kind of an announcement. I want to recognize some people who did some special things during a very special time when our building was closed and we didn't have a minister. So how does a church survive when you don't have a minister and you don't have a building to go to? That's a good question. Plus, the building's empty and someone still needs to care for it, even though we're not coming here every week. So it was a little while ago, but it's time to recognize some things that people did during that time to keep us going. So, let's start with the building. Even though the building was closed, turkeys still pecked at it. Coyotes still chewed through the irrigation system, drain lines could become clogged with sediment, and plumbing could spring a leak. TV screens could spontaneously fall off the wall. Required inspections still needed to be accomplished. And who did all of that? Well, we were all gone. Christina Wilkins took care of the building during the closure and led the way with the many tasks required to prepare for our reopening. Christina, would you please come up? We have a card for you to express our thanks. If you want to stay up here, you can join the others as they come up, wherever, if you don't mind. And the card that she received, by the way, was created by our talented Sandy Devenhall, expressing our thanks for her dedicated service. And each one of these individuals will receive a card. To have services with no minister, suddenly a guest speaker was needed every week. A different speaker was recruited each week, and services needed to be planned, music selected, videos downloaded, PowerPoint slides prepared, a different one every week. And leading the effort to find speakers and prepare the services was Val Condi, chair of the WRAP committee, which is the Worship Resources and Program Committee. Val, would you come up, please, and accept a card from us? Seems a little cold, but yeah. Once the service was planned, it had to be sent over the internet by some method because, after all, we weren't here. We were somewhere, we were all at home, actually, is where we were. This was all brand new. The word Zoom became part of our everyday language. Services and meetings were broadcast on Zoom, and everyone, almost everyone, needed to learn how to use Zoom. Recordings of the services were uploaded to our YouTube channel, which made our vision of us even broader. People could see what we were doing on Sunday mornings. The person who organized, planned, and coordinated this Zoom program for us, allowing our services and meetings to beam out to everyone, perhaps the most remarkable achievement of the time, was the talented and dedicated, and I would say relentless, Val Rosado. Thank you, Val. She created the tech team, and the two Vals did not prepare and send the services alone. WRAP members and a new group called the tech team worked together to accomplish these extraordinary new tasks. Several were members of both teams in this effort. I'm going to call out all their names if you would hold your applause until they're all called up. These are the folks that did a lot of the work with the two Vals and helped with the services. First of all, Kristen Hughes was on WRAP and tech. Janine Reagan, who's not here this morning. Kristen, come on up. Janine Reagan is not here, but she's with Lois Sanford, by the way. WRAP and tech for Janine. Susie Lockwood is here. Come on up, Susie. Got a card for you. Chris Cleveland is here. we have a card for you. She was also on the RAP committee. Carol Armel, I believe, is here. Carol? There she is. She was on the tech team, and me, I'll just say me. I helped with RAP and tech during that time. For our work, we recognize all these people for their work in leading, preparing service broadcasting services over Zoom, keeping us meeting on Sunday services. Let's give them some applause. I have to recognize.
We don't have a card for you.
Oh, well, it's somewhere.
Can I say, it was our pleasure, you guys. It was our pleasure.
I want to say one more thing, and that is that Kit Tatum was also on the tech team and the RAP team, a very important part of those teams. Now, she's passed away, so this award is posthumous, and I would like Bill Herman, if he's here, to come up and receive that on her behalf. He is here.
Oh.
Applause for that. Kit was very important in selecting music, finding videos for the music, just unbelievable.
Yes. Work hard.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks again to all these folks who did that, everybody.
No.
It's now time for opening words, which will be presented by Reverend Onnie.
Recording in progress.
If we are lucky, we will all get a chance during our life to know someone who becomes for us an exemplar of living. And if we are really lucky, we will recognize how they ended up passing on some of their goodness to us, if we are lucky. But one thing is certain, no one, not one of us entering this world can escape the cost of living. The price we pay is this: to live in this world, we must accept that someday we will have to die. To love what is alive, we must accept having to lose what we've made precious through our care. To be fully and fiercely human, we must accept having to be breakable and sometimes broken.
At this time, I'd like to again welcome everyone, and especially visitors or those returning after an absence. I invite you to wave your hand if you're comfortable doing so, and so we can see you. Pete, our microphone person, will bring the microphone to you, and you can introduce yourself this morning if you'd like. If we have any first-time visitors today who would like to do that. Here we have someone in the front.
I'm Sue Boone. I'm with the Unitarian Universalists of Clearwater. I've been camping at some campground here in town. Wherever. We've had a great time, went to restaurants and boat ride through Door Canal. So, thank you.
Oh, welcome. Anyone else want to introduce themselves this morning? Yes, sir.
My name is Fritz Offenkamp. I'm visiting Jay. I live in Delray, and I attend the Unitarian Church at Boca Raton.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. Since you're all Unitarians, you know what Unitarianism is about, so I won't say what we do here specifically because you're familiar with that. But welcome, and if you're still in the area, come again. It's now time to light our chalice. Reverend Onnie will speak, and I will light the chalice.
When we stop to notice how the lives around us give us a path and a little light to see by, it helps encourage us to help carry the light forward. Though each of us carries forth in this world a small flame, we know that the ability of that light to brighten the world depends upon the many others who learn to walk with it in their hearts. We light this chalice today to honor the sting of loss and the power of hope when love is not enough.
Thank you, Reverend Onnie. Now let's sing Spirit of Life. This is hymn number 123 in the gray hymnal. Let's all stand if you're willing and able to do that. The words will be on the screen. You don't need to have a hymnal, but if you want to use one, there are hymnals throughout the chairs. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Oh, if the wind rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice, whose glory close, set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Thank you. Please be seated. We take time every Sunday for those who wish to offer a joy or concern or an intention perhaps for the coming week. As we share joy, it multiplies. When we share concern, it begins to lessen. Sharing an intention may give us strength. If you have a joy or concern or intention to share silently, please go to the table in the front or the rear of the sanctuary to place a stone in the sand representing that joy or concern. I will call on those who wish to tell their joy or concern after the silent sharing has been completed. Please begin silent sharing. Does anyone wish to share a joy or concern or intention aloud? Chris Cleveland, Pete will bring you the microphone.
This is from, can you hear me? Okay, this is from the Care and Connect Committee. Ernie Rossi is improving. He's still in the hospital, but he actually has a feeding tube and he's improving because he's able to eat. And Lois had heart surgery last week, and it ended up being less than they expected to do, but now she's having problems and is back in ICU, and her daughter is here, and that's where Janine is today, is with her daughter and Lois. And Dawn Reed fell last week and tore a ligament in her shoulder, so she doesn't know yet what's going to happen with that. So that's a little update on our aging congregation.
Bernie Greenberg.
Safe Congregations is very pleased to announce that the COVID level in Lake County is low.
Kristen.
Kristen Hughes here. We were on our way into church this morning, and our text messages popped up. And we looked down, not driving, of course. And my nephew, Quentin Hughes, got engaged last night to his longtime girlfriend, Zahava. And they get this, we've been waiting for about 10 years for this to happen. They've been in Japan, they've been in Belize, they've been in Costa Rica. They're an amazing couple. But they had an engagement party with her parents, his parents, both sides, divorced halves of each, and his sister and all their boyfriends and girlfriends in a fun little party place. And it's real, they did it. Congratulations, Quentin.
Anyone else? Thank you. If there's anyone who has not been mentioned who you hold concern for, feel free to say the name aloud. You don't need to wait for someone else. For those on Zoom, you may unmute and say the names. Please go ahead. And just to mention, the stone I placed in the sand was on behalf of Barbara Morrow, who's not here. She happens to actually be in South Carolina, I believe, but she sent a chat to us this morning and asked that a stone be placed in the sand for someone that she's concerned for. So that was for her. For all those things named and for all those things that are too tender to speak, we collectively hold them in the light of our compassion and the warmth of our community. Being mindful of the joys and concerns that have been shared, we now enter a quiet time. This may be a time of reflection, meditation, prayer, or simply sitting quietly. Quiet connects us to a different realm and may deepen our spiritual connections. I will share reading number 480 from our hymnal, after which we will have the time of silence. Let us open our minds and hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain, and for the soft, gentle coming of love. Thank you, Terry. Reverend Onnie will now present a story for all ages.
My grandfather was a small, wiry man with a thick head of hair, a slow smile, and an emotional reserve expressed in silence, although he did become more animated when discussing the affairs of the church over Sunday suppers. He was an avid reader of books and collector of relics left all over from the former inhabitants of the Ohio land where he had our small dairy farm. Some of those relics, turned up by his plow, arrowheads, and empty Civil War era shell casings, found a temporary home in his apron pocket. I vividly remember his work clothes, especially his old leather apron. It hung on a hook close to the milking stalls in the barn. It protected him from the blows from large animals' hoofs. It provided some warmth on the cold days and a bit of protection on the rainy days. The apron had several pockets where he carried tools and the stuff he used to fix things. Occasionally, I would find that one of those pockets yielded a piece of hard candy, studded with pieces of hay and tractor oil and God knows what else, including the aforementioned relics. More than once, I watched my grandfather absently use his leather apron to swat a horse or a cow into its stall. It was so pliant that he could form it into a pouch to carry eggs up to the kitchen. It smelled like the barn, with undertones of horse manure, milk, and cats. It smelled like eternity. The apron itself was not a particular thing of beauty. It was made from one of his father's, my great-grandfather's, deceased cows. But what made it beautiful to me was what it represented. It represented the things that embody love, security, discipline, caregiving, community, acceptance, and the sacredness of small things. So it is with anything. What makes an object beautiful is the way it makes you feel. What emotions does your love object trigger? Do those feelings raise you up or tear you down? Does your object remind you of love? Does it connect you with eternity?
All you need is love. Would you now join me with the congregational covenant, which will appear on the screen? There it is. Love is the spirit of this church, and through service we live our principles. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another. It's now time for us to reflect on how we help continue our UU presence in this community by our financial support. Your financial contribution is an essential part of our demonstration of love and help for each other in this special family. There are multiple ways to give, all of which are found in the weekly bulletin, or on our UCLC website, or on the slide, which you see now. There is a wooden box in the foyer for donations by cash or check today. Everyone feels good after you donate, especially you. Please stand as you're willing and able, and let's sing together hymn 1008, which is in the teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace when our heart is in a holy place. And we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind. When we see our faces in each other's eyes, our heart is in a holy place. Our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. When we tell our story from deep inside, we listen with a loving mind. And we hear our voices in each other's words. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. When we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of hearts stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, when our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place. Thank you. We'll now hear from Reverend Onnie.
The Soul Matters theme for this month, not surprisingly, is love. You heard it in Terry's wonderful prelude music, and you will hear it in her music throughout this morning. There are lots of songs celebrating love. Most of us are familiar with the song by the Beatles that you heard in the prelude music, All You Need Is Love. I have always been mightily uncomfortable with this sentiment. There are lots of definitions of love. What are we talking about? Love is much larger and harder than what we mean when we say, I love my new car, or I love my trip to Europe, or I love my job. I still like the Apostle Paul's definition in the letter he wrote to the squabbling church of Corinth, probably around 50 AD. In it, he describes the reverse of the proud, contemptuous, divisive spirit manifested in the behavior of some of the members of that congregation. Paul wrote, love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. So when the Beatles sing, there's nothing you can make that can't be made. No one you can save that can't be saved. It's easy. All you need is love. I bristle. There's nothing easy about it. Ask anyone who's been in any sort of a relationship. And there are times in everyone's life when love is not enough to save someone or to save yourself. Back in 2010, I heard this story from one of my mentors who gave me permission to recount it this morning. She said, I have always deeply feared motorcycles for the sake of their riders. I recognize the attraction, the excitement, but one of my brothers was nearly killed when he fell trying to avoid a dog that was chasing him. That was the beginning of my fear, and I didn't hesitate to tell my children about it, to no avail, as I expected. Both my sons rode, and my daughter was more than occasionally a passenger. Then, 14 years ago, my youngest was giving a ride to a friend's girlfriend who wanted to see what it was like. He was showing off, going a little too flamboyantly around a curve, and there was sand in the road. She was killed. Although neither the authorities nor his friend held him accountable, he himself took full responsibility for the tragedy, knowing that if he hadn't been playing the cowboy, he could have avoided the accident. He will live with that sense of guilt for the rest of his life. I was shocked at my own callousness, she continued. I was too grateful that he was still alive to grieve for the girl or her parents or her 2 children and fiancé. My horror was for him, for his grief and shame. He told me that he had considered suicide and had decided that that would simply make things worse for everyone else, and that although he would, in those circumstances, no longer have to think about it, it would not, could not change the reality or atone for it. My mentor admitted she was proud of him. She went on to say, I was also more than frustrated than I have ever been and hope never to be again. There was absolutely nothing I could do to ease his pain. It didn't matter how much I loved him, how much I wanted to. I could take none of his grief and shame on my own shoulders. I would have given anything at all to be able to do that, to relieve him even a little of the agony that I knew he would feel all his life. I could not. It was his own and would remain his own. The inadequacy, the futility of love to bridge this separation was clear. I heard this story 18 years ago. In November 2017, I got word that her son, this same son, had died. He died as a result of alcoholism or from a drug overdose, maybe both. Does it really matter? He died because he was unable to make the long climb from blaming himself to forgiving himself. He was dearly loved and supported by his family and the many friends that showed up at his funeral. But their love was not enough to save him. There is not enough love in the world to save someone who cannot begin to forgive their self. Nor is there enough love to prevent tragedies, large and small. If you engage with life long enough, you will encounter a situation where human love is not enough to bring you back to the person you were. Time is parceled into before and after. Those of you who have experienced the death of a beloved know the truth of this. Of some comfort is knowing that death comes to everything and everyone. There's nothing you can do to prevent it. Your involvement in the natural order of things does not require self-forgiveness, except to the extent you choose to blame yourself for what you did or didn't do to prolong or hasten the process. But the inevitability of death aside, stuff happens. Stuff happens that neither patience, kindness, humility, flexibility, cheerfulness, or truthfulness can deflect. I'm thinking now of my grandnephew, Gabe. He was the son of my niece, Judy, and her wife, Liz, Gabe's birth mother. About the age of 3, Gabe had been taken to the hospital, and the early diagnosis was a seizure disorder. The cause was unknown. 3 weeks later, he was placed in a medically induced coma. As time dragged on, the mom's friends set up a fund to help financially when their family leave, medical leave, and vacations from their very good jobs ran out. The money poured in, and my sister wrote, "Thank you. Will never be enough to express our abiding love for you all. You are our silver lining." Bad went to worse for the next 2 years. His mother wrote, "I am altered and scarred. But through it all, one thing is most clear, that in the darkest of times, tenderness has tethered us to hope. Gentleness and patience from Gabe's doctors and nurses, from our friends and families, and even from strangers have kept us from drowning. Simple words of love and caring sustain us. All in all, we are getting through with the intense and unending support from our families and friends. We love you." The last time I saw Gabe, he was an infant in a 4-year-old body, back in diapers, unable to walk or feed himself or form words. A survivor of countless invasive surgeries, totally reliant on the skill and care of others for his very survival. Love was not able to save him from an extremely rare disease. Love did not assure he would ever recover who he was. Love was not enough to keep that small family from shattering when he died. Loving the stranger that looked like their little boy was anything but easy. But here's the thing about love. It bears all things, believes all things, endures all things, and hopes all things. Love hopes, even though it is by no means enough to restore the before it happened relationships. There is a love that is utterly futile to change things, to help another person, even to bridge our existential loneliness. Yet, with its cold edge, love sears meaning into our loneliness, the love we give rather than that which we are given. The love you've expended toward the loved ones comes back to you through the love of others. The love you've expended toward the loved ones comes back to you through the love of others. Or, in the words of Paul McCartney, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. I have witnessed the truth of this, and I expect you have too. And I would add that there is also a type of love called grace that comes unbidden and throws off McCartney's equation. I cannot explain it except to say that it appears to have nothing to do with human action or intention. It appears whether or not I have taken the love I've earned or given all the love of which I'm capable. Grace tilts the equation to the love taken from somewhere transcending human community. All of us have tender stories like the ones I've shared with you this morning. Heartbreak is an essential part of what it means to be human. We all try so desperately to shield ourselves from it. But there it is, bound up with our love. Bound up with those moments when we feel cut off from that love. In fact, we can predict that heartbreak will visit all of us. What we cannot predict is what we will choose to do with our heartbreak. Love may not be enough to save us from whatever tragedy befalls us, But the power of love is enough to propel us from the before into the future. May it be so, always and forever. Amen.
We will now sing hymn number 6, which is in the gray hymnal, Just as Long as I Have Breath. Please stand as you're willing and able. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. In my way, still I hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. As long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love. Reverend Onnie will now extinguish the chalice, or say some words while I extinguish the chalice.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. As we sing our congregational leave-taking song, I invite you to raise your hands to send your energy outward to your neighbors, your community, to your nation, and to the wide world.
Our leaving song is Weave. If we'd like to stand, put your hands out. We're still not touching, even though COVID is low, we're still not touching. So put your hands out and send your energy to your neighbor. Weave us together, weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together, weave us together, together in love. We have closing words from Reverend Onnie.
Go in hope, for the arc of the universe is long, and we can bend it toward love. A holy and generous love is both the reason and the means by which we transform our lives and the lives we touch. As you leave the sanctuary, please enjoy Terry's music while you gather for coffee and conversation. She's playing what the world needs now. Go in peace.